Is it public? Yes. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to my stream. Hello everyone, welcome to my stream. Sorry, I'm just sending out some social media messages. Is the red gone? No, it's not gone. It's definitely permanent, so it will not be gone. Trying to make sure my stuff got sent. Indeed. Can everybody see and hear me well? Is it too low or too loud? Yeah, a lot of people seem to expect there to be an actual Sunday. Maybe I should make sure there's a Sunday. Although I've been trying to eat less sugar, so maybe I'll have to find a more healthier alternative, or maybe like a sugar-free Sunday, maybe. All right, welcome to my stream, everyone. This is my weekly stream. Weekly is in quotes because I seem to miss weeks often, but we try to be as consistent as possible. We try to stream every Monday. I normally would start the stream a little bit earlier than this, but I was a little bit preoccupied, so we started a little bit late. Started about 30 minutes later than I normally would, but we here. I mean, I could probably make a sugar-free Sundae. I mean, what makes a Sundae a Sundae? A sundae is an ice cream dessert. Isn't it just ice cream with stuff in it? Isn't that what a sundae is? And they definitely have sugar-free ice cream. I might have to try to find a good one though, because a lot of times the sugar substitutes are just as bad for you as sugar is. So you have to make sure you find a good one. Yeah, I could get an ice cream maker, or I can just buy ice cream. But maybe I'll think about that. I don't know if that would, if people actually care that much, but it is a comment that I get frequently. People are always like, "Where's the Sundae?" I do have water though. Anything that has sugar in it can be made a sugar-free version of it because there are many things that you could substitute sugar for. Water is not a sundae. Well, you're not wrong. Can't argue with that one. Anyway, how's everyone doing this afternoon? It is a very nice day here in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where I am, if you didn't know that. Sun shining. There's very few clouds in the sky. It rained pretty much all weekend, so it's kind of nice to have a nice sunny day. And it's not that hot either. It's like 70 degrees outside, maybe like 65, something like that. So it's just a very good day. Feels good. Did I hear about the Destiny Trihex thing? I did not. I honestly feel like I'm completely out of the loop. I have been I've been just kind of preoccupied. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I just Googled it though and it said Trihex is angry with Destiny over the use of racial slurs. Yeah, I guess I would have to go into it and read all this stuff, which I'm definitely not going to do now. How cold does it get in Alabama? It gets pretty cold. At least it has historically. It can get to these days. The lowest it'll probably get would be maybe like in the low teens during like the peak of winter. But it'll probably be like 2 days out of the whole year that it gets that cold. And then like when it is winter, we'll probably have solidly 20-30 degree days. But these days our winters are very, very short, to the point where you kind of almost forget that they even happened. But it does get pretty cold, just not for it just doesn't stay cold for very long. What's that weather in European numbers? 65 Fahrenheit in Celsius. That's about 18 degrees. 18 Celsius. And so I said that cold, it can get colder, like can get to the low teens. So I say like 15 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius, that would be -9. According to Google. Hope you're well. I'm watching YouTube videos and procrastinating writing my paper for my anthropology class. Sounds good. I'm pretty good at procrastinating myself. Trying to work on it, but as long as you get it done at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on Lil Kim's album sales? I don't know much about it. Is she not selling very well? Do people buy albums still? What's up, Sarcastic? What's up, Fawnable? Yeah, we don't get snow that much. It does get cold, but we rarely get snow. The most that we normally get is like it gets icy. Every now and then we'll have like a day where it snows a little bit, and that's it. We'll never like actually have a snow day where the snow sticks to the ground. Well, not that we'll never have that, but it may happen like one day out of the whole year. It's pretty cool when it happens, although for it to snow, that usually means it has to be pretty cold, and usually when it's that cold, it's pretty uncomfortable. Also, because it snows so rarely, um, we're just not prepared for it, and it kind of shuts the whole state down. Like we pretty much have to close everything and close the roads, and people freak out and like go to the store and buy up all the milk and bread. But it's to be expected because we just it would be impractical for us to prepare for snow and ice because it happens like one day out of the year. So when it happens, we just kind of have to wait it out. Just kind of hide inside and wait it out. Thanks for the comment, Submerse. Yeah, I feel like I don't know anyone that literally buys albums anymore. If anything, people buy songs, but you don't even have to buy songs anymore. You can just stream them. Now, if people aren't streaming it at all, then that's another thing, and I guess that's what you're saying. Who do I like for the Democratic primary? I don't particularly know for sure. My best guess is probably Elizabeth Warren, but I haven't done a whole lot of research so far because I think it's still too early. But as the next year kicks in, I'll definitely be looking more into it. It just seems weird to like put so much stock into all these people that are just going to be gone in a few months. So I'm not really putting a lot of energy into it. Most people I know don't even like CDs are just kind of phased out, at least in my experience. Like a lot of computers and laptops don't have CD players on them anymore. Cars aren't released with CD players anymore, or at least many of them aren't. Um, People don't buy CD players. You can't even find one really. I mean, you can find one online, I guess, but uh, like I feel like if you go in like Walmart or Target right now, it'd be hard to find a CD player. Video game systems don't play CDs. I don't think. Maybe they do. But like I said, for me, I have no real use for a CD because I can literally stream any song that I want for free. So I guess all that requires is an internet connection. But all you have to do is find the internet connection and then just download the songs that you want. Do you have advice for someone who wants to start a YouTube channel? Well, the advice would be different depending on what your actual goals are for the channel. In general, I would say just make stuff and don't think too much about it, especially if you're like brand new to making video content. You just need to get into the habit of making content. So just make stuff and don't worry too much about whether it's like amazing, because if you're new to it, it's not going to be amazing. In fact, it'll probably be pretty bad. But you have to get through the process of making a bunch of bad to mediocre stuff for a long time. Unless you have a background in videography or editing or writing or something. Or unless you just kind of been fortunate enough to be blessed with natural talent somehow, which happens. But you have to just get through the process of making a lot of stuff. I would say like maybe make like 100 videos before you even think about anything else, because you need to get into the habit of making consistent content, but also learning how to make stuff that doesn't suck. I'm waiting till the primary to do my hardcore research on candidates. Yeah, same. Film Radar. What's up, man? Hey, glad to catch the scream. How have you been? I've been good. I feel like I've been busy a lot lately. But I'm happy. How have you been? How's the channel going? I did see you didn't you recently pass 100K subscribers, if I'm not mistaken? Or did that happen a long time ago? What do you think about the left winning in South America? Could this mean Trump will lose too? Well, I don't know a lot about what's going on in South America, but I do think that Trump is pretty unpopular, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he will lose. But I do think that the world in general is kind of seeing, you know, like, hey, it's probably not a good idea to like elect awful people. But the problem is, I think a lot of people are just a poor judge of who is and isn't awful. So yeah, congrats. Yeah, I mean, my channel's been doing pretty well. I got a big boost a few months ago, and it's sort of slowed down, but it's, you know, it's still going up, so it's pretty good. I really think that the 100K subscriber mark is like a really, I don't know. I know it's kind of obnoxious to talk about it when there are a lot of people that wish they could get to that point and aren't anywhere near that. But I feel like once you get 100,000 subscribers, it's like a moment where you can just kind of breathe and just kind of, I don't know, it made me a lot less anxious because there's like there's no significant milestone after that for a long time. So it's like, well, I made this, so I can just relax, just focus on making videos. I'm good. Because it's like the next, like, and all of the milestones are pretty arbitrary, but the next like significant milestone is 1 million, and 100,000 is a long way from 1 million, so you don't really have to think about it. But like when you're in that weird period where you're like, you know, you have 50K or more subscribers, there's like a lot of anxiety about reaching 100,000, and you kind of, at least it was for me, and I think it is for a lot of other people. Which is kind of weird because it's an arbitrary milestone. I think it's probably a milestone. Well, to some extent, it kind of makes sense because you add a 0 to the end, the number looks bigger. But but also it's just a fabricated milestone that YouTube has made because it's like, oh, you get a plaque when you hit 100,000 and all that stuff, and it just looks better. But I don't know. It's a good milestone. Am I playing anything? I haven't played a lot of stuff lately because I've been just busy in different ways. I still am. I pop in WoW Classic every now and then and just try to get a level or two. I play League of Legends, a couple games every now and then. As far as like real games, not really. Although I'm interested in trying some things out. I'm probably gonna buy the Zelda remake that's on Switch and play that because I love Zelda. Yeah, I think blowing up too big, too fast can be a problem for sure. That's why I'm always happy to give people advice about YouTube, because my like number one advice is always kind of just to be humble and to remember that your content is what matters. Chad, thank you for the $20. Hey everyone, hope you all good. I hope you're doing good. I actually did download Destiny 2. I just played it for maybe like 30 minutes or so. Seems pretty cool though. My computer isn't the best, so it like doesn't run it very well. I have to play on like low settings. But it was playable, I guess. Also the loading times are pretty crazy in that game, but I've read that back when it came out on console, the loading times were insane, and like it was one of the main complaints about the game. The WWE racist shirt issue, I haven't really looked too much into it. I saw the shirt and I saw like some complaints about it, but it's, I think it's just another example of a company being tone deaf, and really I think that's just a thing that's going to happen, and the best thing to do is to apologize, fix it, and move on. We'll see how that works out though. I used to play League of Legends. It's more fun when you have enough friends to fill a team slot. Yeah, I mean most games like that are more fun with friends, but I'm a very competitive person, and I like the idea of figuring out how to be good at games, and I like the whole ranking system type of thing. So I like to play by myself and sort of challenge myself to get better and rise in the rankings, which I have not done a good job of. League of Legends is hard. This is trippy to be in your live stream right now. I must have subscribed. I don't know how many moons ago. Any current events on your mind recently? Any current events? I don't know. I've been having a lot of more personal things on my mind lately, I guess. But I try to stay at least a little bit informed. Some researchers say Trump managed to push back the crisis and extend the time of economic growth. So is he an awful person? Yeah. I mean, I don't whether or not Trump's decisions have been good for the economy has kind of no bearing on whether or not he's a bad person. I think it's pretty clear he's a bad person. Like, I don't by any standard of what makes a person a good person, I think Trump fails all of them. And it's interesting, like, people, like, I don't know, I feel like it is weird to focus on economic growth as if that's like the only thing that a country needs to survive or to be like a good place to live. Like, it's like so grasping for straws, like it's like the thing where I don't know. It's so weird that people jump through hoops for Trump like that. I don't really understand. I don't know. It's like such. It's I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, it reminds me of like it. It's not even. I was gonna say it reminds me of like Lex Luthor, but it's not even a good comparison. But I was gonna say, like, it reminds me of like, there's in the comics, it'll be like, well, Lex Luthor did try to take over the world and kill all of the superheroes and like blow up the sun and all kinds of shit. But he did build a playground for those kids. So, you can't, it's hard to say, you know, but it's not even comparable because Trump has never even done anything as philanthropic as Lex Luthor. So it's not even a good comparison. Um, I haven't really found any games that I felt hooked on, but I've always wanted to try League of Legends based off the traction. Well, I don't. It's definitely not a game that's for everyone, and it's a hard game, especially if you're brand new to it. But I sort of like I like the challenge of it, and I like the sort of chess like aspect of it. Also, it has a really shitty community, so if you get annoyed or offended easily by kids in chat, um, then you probably want to avoid it. What do I think about Watchmen on HBO? I haven't seen it. I was just talking to my partner about the weird focus on money as a goal in itself without a different use as opposed to a different way to get a sense of self-worth. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common, I don't know if it's a Western thing or if it's a human thing, but a lot of value is placed directly on money. And obviously money is important and money is tied to a lot of things. Um, but money in and of itself is not going to, it's not going to, fix all of your problems. Um, yeah. Have you ever played a major role in making someone exit their religion? If I did, I didn't. I didn't do it knowingly. It's possible as a person with a larger than average public platform that things that I've said have influenced people, but I don't know. Just in my mind, being a president is a profession. You can't judge an engineer on how he treats other people. Well, you do, but how good he does his job. Um, well, I think that how you treat people and how you feel about other people is directly related with how well you do your job, especially if your job is to be the president. But even if your job is an engineer, um, I think you have an oversimplistic view of how these things work. Like if your job is I don't know, like if you're an engineer and your job is and your job, for example, I have a friend who's an engineer. He's an engineering supervisor, and um he has to make sure that the people, I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that he has to kind of make sure that the projects and stuff get done, and he like manages people. But imagine if this guy doesn't like black people. That's bad. That's a bad quality. I'd say that's a bad guy probably. Um, of course, that's going to affect how he does his job. 100%. That's going to affect who he hires. That's going to affect how he treats the people that work with him. That's going to affect what kind of benefits and negative aspects get handed out. That's going to affect all kinds of stuff. So yeah, the way that you treat people definitely affects how you do your job. Now imagine instead of being an engineering supervisor, that person's the actual president of the most powerful country in the world. Yeah, that's going to affect how you do your job. If you are sexist and racist and xenophobic, yeah, that's going to affect how you do your job as the president. 100%. Because a lot of the things that get put on his table have to do with social issues and economic issues that face groups like that. Absolutely. And we're already seeing it. There are literal children being kept in cages. A person, like a good person, would do everything in their power to make that not happen. You know? So yeah, how good of a person you are does affect how you do your job, especially and particularly when you're the president. Um, should LeBron go bald already? I mean, LeBron can do whatever he wants. Whatever brings him joy and makes him happy, that's the thing that he should do. Is anybody? Oh, by the way, where's everybody at? Where are you currently chatting from? What city? What country? What's been your most controversial video so far? My most controversial video is probably my video I did about veganism a while ago. It was not about veganism, but it's called "Why I'm Not a Vegan." I got a pretty poor response, but I ended up unlisting it because I don't think that there's definitely a disconnect between what I was trying to say and how it was received, and it just wasn't really generating the type of conversation that I normally want to be generated for my videos. How do you feel about Tyler Perry being very rich but producing trash content for black people? Well, I think that whether or not something is trash content is a matter of opinion. I know a lot of black people that really like Tyler Perry's stuff. I like some of Tyler Perry's stuff. So it seems like you're expressing an assertion as if it is a fact. Let's not forget the president is also the public face of our country's values. If the president is an actual terrible person, that reflects on all of us. Yeah, I agree with that. London, Arizona, near Atlanta. London again, Buffalo, Houston. What if a good president failed at doing his job? Yeah, I mean, if you're bad at the job that you have, then you shouldn't do it, regardless. And I think that there's a good article that came out a while back, not maybe like a couple years ago. I think it's from Vox, but it basically was an argument that we should normalize impeaching the president. Like it shouldn't be seen as this like drastic thing, because pretty much any other job, if you're bad at it, you get fired. And the presidency should not be any different. I think Trump is an extreme case. I think he's a person that clearly shouldn't be the president. But even if you're a well-meaning person who has a good heart, but you're bad at the job, you shouldn't have it. And it should be normalized that we just fire people who aren't good at the job. So I 100% agree that people who aren't good at it shouldn't do it, and it should be normal for us to get rid of people who aren't good at it. Thoughts on the Boondocks? Like the cartoon? The cartoon was amazing, but maybe it's a hot take, but I think the comic strip was better than the cartoon. But the cartoon was great. That's a really good idea. It would also normalize the idea that the government works for the people and less like a means to gain power. Yeah, I mean, the way that the government works needs to be really rearranged in a lot of different ways. The the influence of money has to be pretty much completely removed, or at least removed to the extent that it could be. There's definitely should be term limits for everybody, including the Supreme Court and senators and congressmen. And people should be fired if they're bad at it. But it's more complicated than that for sure. Like, um, but that's a general idea. Pretty much every genre, but my personal favorite is hip hop. Yeah, I pretty much just listen. I don't really keep up with music that much. I pretty much just listen to music that I grew up listening to, which was a lot of early hip hop. Not early, but like late '90s, early 2000s hip hop, and a lot of like grunge and alt rock and like classic rock and stuff like that. I need to read more of the comic strip. Well, the comic strip was a much more overtly political satire. Like the Boondocks, the cartoon for the most part, I think is just mostly just like absurdist humor. Like there's a bit of satire, but it's mostly just like absurdist humor. The comic strip was pure political satire. What was your primary goal when creating this channel? My primary goal when creating the channel was just making stuff. I just like making stuff. And it was just an outlet to be creative and put things into the world. That's pretty much the main goal. Western society as a whole still kind of believes people in political, authoritative roles must somehow be qualified for their roles to have gotten them when most aren't qualified. Oh, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, qualified, I think, is kind of a nebulous term. But yeah, for sure. I think that people vastly overestimate uh, the aptitude and just general intelligence of politicians, when a lot of them are clearly not very good at anything. But elected officials were all elected. There's a lot of hijinks when it comes to elections, like gerrymandering and voter suppression. But in general, they were voted for. So they were chosen by people. So we just have to get better at, um, we have to repair our bullshit detectors, basically, as a people. What's your favorite Warcraft character or arc or story? I really like what they did with Illidan, and basically ending his story in the more recent Legion expansion. It was a cool twist. Illidan was actually a good guy, kind of. It's complicated because political trends change all the time. You have to keep up with everything. Stay a good person and do your job good. Do you have any example of a president, politician who matches all the criteria in history? Who matches all the criteria? I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of historians that talk about that study the presidents. I'm not one such historian. And I'm not arguing that someone has to have a 100% track record and never make any mistakes ever in order to be considered a good president. But yeah, I don't know. Like most historians agree that Abraham Lincoln was a pretty good president. I think most historians believe that FDR was a pretty good president. I haven't, like I said, I'm not a historian, so I haven't like looked over every single detail. I have not watched The Joker. Have I heard of SPM, good rapper? I don't think so. Oh, South Park Mexican? Yeah, I've heard of South Park Mexican. I don't know that much. I remember a song like a long time ago. Apparently, he's a sex offender. Was Obama a good president? Um, are you asking? Are you? Well, yeah. There's a question mark. I think that Obama attempted a strategy that didn't work, so I don't think that he was a very effective president. But um, as far as presidents go, he's. I think that Obama's ideas were good. I think that the strategy he used to implement those ideas was not good. But I also think Obama was unlucky. Maybe not unlucky, no. Um, Obama was he was kind of like a black dude in the wrong place at the wrong time, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Most people I talk to think that the Joker was fine. I don't think I've heard anyone say that it was amazing, but everyone says that it's fine. It's interesting with Obama also because Trump gets all this credit for, you know, being good for the economy, but those people never give Obama the same credit, even though he literally oversaw the recovery of an actual recession. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think it's like a legitimate argument because I think it's disingenuous because people don't give the same credit. to Obama. Like it's like often just people jumping through hoops to find something about Trump that isn't terrible. Yeah, I agree, Nathan. But to be fair, the way that the Republicans behaved was a bit unprecedented. So I don't think that Obama was really ready for it. I don't know if he could have been ready for it. I think by his second term, he probably should have been more ready for it. But yeah, I think that he gave the Republicans too much credit when they didn't deserve it. It's not really that Obama was moderate. It's that he didn't try hard enough to enact the things that he wanted to enact. All right, Llewellyn, thanks for coming to the stream. Old Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is really good at pulling out those talking points. Did Kyle call him out on that, or was it just let go? So that's what happens when you debate conservatives. They always have like these talking points ready to go, and it just becomes this sort of gish gallop where you have to respond to every single misleading thing they say. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I can't say what it's like in. I don't know what it's like in other countries. I can only speak for America. Um, I think that a lot of people. I don't know. I think that the ethics and morals of being the president is important. And I think a lot of people act like it's not important. And I think being unethical and being immoral and just being a bad person those are qualities that pretty much no elected official should have, but definitely not the president. Can I see Trump getting a second term? I can definitely see that. And I think we should prepare for the Republicans to pull out all of the stops to try to make that happen. Because while I can see that, I also can see that Trump is a very unpopular president. He probably doesn't actually have the votes. But as we know, Republicans are fully prepared to cheat in various ways. What's up, Domino? You couldn't even get through the debate. Yeah, I mean, you gotta really know. You gotta see debating. It's a rhetorical contest. It's not a It's not a test to see who's the most right. You have to be good at rhetoric and talking, and a lot of people who are more left wing are not very good at it, and so they get embarrassed. But yeah. But the only way that you can get good at it is by practicing. So I guess it's good that people are trying to do it more. Charlie Kirk is the worst though. Like he's the person that's so clearly disingenuous that it's pretty annoying. There are people that seem genuine, even though like a lot of the stuff they say is bad and wrong. They at least seem genuine. But Charlie Kirk is so clearly disingenuous. Domino Harley, thank you for the $5. I absolutely love the channel T1J. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sarah Z has an amazing video on this subject from the POV of a competitive debater. Yeah, I might want to check that out. Yeah, that's why when you debate, like formally and competitively, you are often tasked with debating things that you don't even believe, because it doesn't matter who's right or who has the best argument. It matters who is the best at, who's the most convincing. That's all that matters. Now, I think it's easier to be convincing when you're telling the truth, but some people are very good at being convincing when they're not telling the truth. And those are the people that it becomes hard to win debates with, because when you're willing to stretch the truth and make shit up, then you can just throw out endless nonsense, and it becomes the other person's responsibility to counter it. And it's very difficult. Some good news: Trump might be the last Republican president, as Texas is turning blue. Watch conservatives complain about the Electoral College in the next decade. It seems unlikely that the Democrats or the Republicans will ever like vote to change the Electoral College. It benefits both of them too much, and they have to understand that. But you know, after George W. Bush, I remember saying there's no way people are going to elect a Republican like ever again. So I can't even make predictions like that anymore. Tammy. Yeah, I guess I should check out some of those Politicon videos. I often just get discouraged watching debates, because the conservatives are almost always better debaters, even though they're usually, if not always, like have bad arguments. It benefits the Democrats. It benefits the Republicans more, but it benefits the Democrats also. there are other parties besides the Democrats and the Republicans, and one of the reasons that they're the two parties are dominant is because of the Electoral College. So removing the Electoral College just reduces the control that the two parties have. But I think I don't know things. I think the left is getting a little bit better at this sort of thing. It's the issue here is that it's like the Republicans being better at politics basically means that basically what that means is the Republicans have no scruples when it comes to politics, which like politics shouldn't work that way. So it kind of sucks that those two statements are equal. Like they're willing to completely subvert any decorum or any rules. Um, so it's kind of dumb. Like they have no issues with being unethical. They have no issues with breaking the law. It's just it's a problem. Like I don't want the Democrats to be like that. But the problem is the fact that they are like that is part of the reasons why they've been so successful. So it's I don't know the solution to that, but it's a problem. Meta cheese strategies. Yeah. I just think we have to get better at exposing them. Because I think that people, well, I could be wrong actually. I mean, the election of Trump sort of like shined a light on America and kind of made people realize, hey, maybe Americans aren't that dope. Like maybe they just kind of suck a little bit. Um, but I do think that people like ultimately value goodness. I think people like if you could prove to people that the politicians they vote for don't actually give a shit about them, then I think the people would be upset by that. And I think we have to just get better at exposing them, get better at showing them how these people that they support are actually making things worse and not better. And I don't know exactly how to do that, but I think that's going to be a big part of it. Like I was hoping to see that start to happen with the whole Obamacare thing. And you notice how the Republicans pretty much, I mean, to be fair, they tried a lot, but they have pretty much dropped trying to, undo Obamacare. The issue is a lot of their constituents began to depend on Obamacare. And I was fully expecting that to sort of blow up in their faces once they, repealed Obamacare, and then all of a sudden half their constituents no longer had access to health care. But they never succeeded in repealing it. I think it'll end up being things like that where these issues that they put so much effort into it sort of blows up in their faces once their constituents find out that it's actually bad for them. Yeah, like to me, and I'm not a mind reader. I can only go off my experiences, and I really try not to be cynical, but a lot of times people really play their card. They really show their hand. But to me, Charlie Kirk, I think, is just a professional propagandist. I think he has a job to do and he does it, and that's what he does. I don't think he actually gives a shit. I don't think he may believe the stuff that he says or some of the stuff that he says, but I don't think that he is a genuine person. I don't think he's a serious person. I think he's a person who has made a career doing a thing, and he does that thing, and he tries to do that thing as effectively as possible. That's kind of what I think of Charlie Kirk. He just doesn't seem like a serious person to me. Ben Shapiro, on the other hand, I think that he is a serious person. But I think he's just so far up his own ass that he doesn't care about what's true, really. He's like a person that he has decided that some things are true and nothing will convince him otherwise. And so he's made his career defending certain things that he thinks are true, and nothing, much less facts or evidence, will ever change his mind on that. And that's kind of how I see Ben Shapiro. But I think Ben Shapiro actually believes the things that he says. I think he's a serious person. I don't think he's like intentionally disingenuous, but I think that his cognitive dissonance is so deep that he can convince himself of something even though it's obviously not true. And I know that, that's a thing. You probably know some people that act like that sometimes. They just don't have a huge platform that actually influences the world like Ben Shapiro, but, The ACA repeal attempt is a big part of why we went blue here in Nevada. Yeah, we were starting to hear people complaining about that once they realized what was going to happen. Honestly, I just don't think we've solved the riddle of what makes hardline conservatives continue to support politicians like Trump, even when that person is saying and doing things they wouldn't. Yeah, it's complicated, but I think part of the reason that Republicans are so successful is once there's a guy, they back the guy, sort of regardless. They say, hey, that's our guy. So, like, if it was Trump, like our last three Republican candidates for president that like won the primaries were Trump, Mitt Romney, and John McCain. All three of those people are so different from each other. I mean, they're all like, conservatives, and they have certain views on things, but they're like completely different people. But the entire Republican base got behind all of them. Once they have a guy, they go with the guy. And that sort of solidarity is a big part of why Republicans are successful. Meanwhile, you look at fucking Democrats and people on the left. These people don't agree on anything. You got, I talk about this a bunch of times, but you got like Bernie Sanders supporters and Warren supporters who talk about each other like they're literally evil that are ruining the country, even though those two people have nearly identical platforms. We got people like the infighting on the Democrat side is ridiculous. We have people that, if a candidate gets chosen, they're like, well, fuck it. I'm not even gonna vote. So that's one of the reasons why Republicans are so successful. I also think that, again, I don't want to be cynical, but I think that people fall in line a lot. So, and this isn't just Republicans, but I think that it's a big part of the success of the party. They just sort of kind of do what they're told, and they sort of believe the things that they believe, or the things that they are kind of told to believe. Like, I live in Alabama, by the way, and Alabama has consistently been the biggest Trump supporters in the country. I think the approval rating for Trump in Alabama is like fucking 70 or 80% or something stupid like that. But when you talk to people about Trump, they say shit like they don't, they talk about stuff that is they clearly only believe it because they've been told that that's what they're supposed to believe, like the immigration thing. Nobody was talking about immigration this much before Trump. People talked about it for sure, but you talk to people now, immigration is like number one on their list of concerns. Since when do you care that much about immigration? Like, since Trump started talking about it all the time. That's since when? Like, people just kind of fall in line. But the thing is, the people on the right, there's a spectrum the same way. They don't have, not like the Republican Party like that exists in government, I think is pretty hard right in general. But the people who vote for Republicans are not all hard right. There's a lot of moderate conservatives in America, and there's a lot of, for example, there's a lot of Republicans in America who aren't religious, who aren't Christian, who don't give a fuck about gay marriage or abortion, but they still vote Republican. There's most people, like they do a lot of studies. Most people in America think background checks for guns is a reasonable idea because it is a reasonable idea. But Republicans still consistently take money from the NRA and consistently vote against anything that restricts, that increases gun control in any way. There's a disconnect, but they still vote for them. So I think that spectrum exists on the right also. It's just that they fall in line. In a multi-party system, the Democrats could be split up into at least two, potentially three separate parties, like how Canada has the Liberals, NPD, and the Greens. Yeah, and this is part of the problem because the Democrats don't want that to happen, because that limits their power. All right, Rachel, thanks for checking out the stream. I mean, education, I think, is a part of it, but it's not uneducated. It's just sort of taking advantage of, I think, human nature, because human beings, I don't think, regardless of your political persuasion, human beings like narratives, and they like stories, and they like stories in which they are the heroes. They like stories in which the problems that they have aren't their fault. So if you can sell someone a story, they are very likely to believe it. And I think the left is starting to pick up on this. I think that's a huge part of why socialism and communism is becoming more and more popular in the left, and especially among young people in the left, because they figured out that you have to sell a narrative. You can't just list facts. You have to be like, you're a victim, and all the problems you have are because of this thing. That's the bad guy. You're the good guy, and this is the bad guy. And Republicans are masters of that. They always have been. Democrats are fairly bad at it. They're pretty bad at it. And I don't think, a certain amount of education, I think, helps you resist that influence. But I don't think being educated really saves you from it, because I think it's just a natural sort of human thing to want to be the hero and to want to be told that your problems have easy solutions. I think that probably the more educated you are, the more likely you are to understand that the world is complicated and doesn't involve easy solutions. But I don't know, man. I don't know if being educated is enough. And I mean, I understand it, to be honest. Like, I understand that feeling, because I don't know. It's actually kind of a paradox now that I'm thinking about it. Like, the Republicans, they have, it's like conflicting narratives sometimes, because they go to like some poor white people, and they'll be like, well, the reason that you're struggling is because all of the Muslims and the Mexicans and all those people came in here, and they're just ruining our way of life. They're taking our jobs, and all the liberals, they're just ruining everything and just making it harder for you. But at the same time, they'll say, but the reason those poor black people over there, the reason that they're struggling is because they are just not smart enough. They don't work hard enough. So even though it looks like y'all are kind of in the similar positions, trust me, for them, it's their fault. But for you, it's not your fault. So that's an interesting paradox that I just kind of realized. So I have this. I've been having like a problem. I've been having like gnats. I don't know if you see me like swiping and stuff like that, but there's like a few gnats in here. And I have like this fly stick on my desk, but they ignore it. What's the point of a fly stick if they don't stick to it? I have one in the kitchen also, and that one is more effective. Maybe I have to find a better position for it. Or maybe as long as I'm here, they find me more attractive than the stick. But yeah, that was yeah, I've tried vinegar. It kind of works. But I have them in my room, and I don't want my room to smell like vinegar, so it's kind of weird. Maybe if I put vinegar in the stick, because there's like a little cup thing at the bottom. I don't really know where they're coming from, to be honest. Yeah, I've tried like there's like I mean like the classic trap is supposed to be like apple cider vinegar with like some soap in it or something because the soap they stick to the soap or something. Uh, yeah, they like the sweet taste of it. It's weird. So when the enemy is vanquished, i.e., all of the minorities are casted out of the country, what happens then? There wouldn't be a group of people for poor whites to blame. I mean, I'm sure they'll find something else to blame, but I think they think that that's going to solve all of their problems. Um, so I don't think that they are worried about that because they think once they achieve that, all their problems will be solved. Of course, it would. That's not what's going to happen, and I'm sure once that happens, they'll find someone else to blame. That's the problem with racism. It's not sustainable and it's not rational. It's not based on anything. Because once you get rid of all the brown and black people, what's next? It's going to be, well, I mean, they already don't like Jews, but a lot of Jews are white, or at least they look white. So they're going to be like, well, what about all the Irish people? It's the Irish. So then the Irish have to go. So, well, what about all the Italians and the Germans and the Dutch? Yeah, exactly. Bigotry is just unsustainable. It cannot solve any problems because it's not based on anything rational. Yeah, I think they already kind of hate LGBT people. And that's the thing with the right. Like I said, American Republicans are usually, evangelical Christians, or at least their policy and their values are based on evangelical Christianity, which is just in general anti-LGBTQ. And the far and like fascists and neo-Nazis are generally anti-LGBTQ. But there are also a lot of conservatives that at the very least don't give a shit about people's gender and sexuality. But if they're put in a position where they have to choose Republican values over like the humanity of LGBTQ people, they're perfectly willing to throw those people under the bus. So but Republicans have tried to sell that story as well. Before gay marriage became legal, universally legal in America, there was all the talk about the gay agenda and how the gays and how they're trying to ruin the sanctity of marriage and all that stuff. And they still attack trans people. They say that trans people are going to invade bathrooms and try to assault people and stupid stuff like that. So they sell those narratives as well. I've seen already white nationalists of different nationalities bicker at each other on forums over nationality, bashing Poles or Germans, for example. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, bigotry is unsustainable. It doesn't end. What forums are you visiting though, my guy? Just kidding. You can go to whatever forums you want. I never get the Republican love freedom thing, but yeah, like don't like LGBT people for alternative lifestyles. Oh yeah, it's nonsense. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, part of their strategy is, or part of their whole value system is protecting, the traditional lifestyle. I mean, that's sort of like part of the etymology of the term conservative is they don't like things that are changing. They don't like evolution of the status quo. And part of the reason that they don't like it is because evolution of the status quo generally involves reducing the power of privileged groups like white people and men and straight people and cis people. So their whole thing is going to be in opposition to anything that even remotely resembles that. And for some people at different periods of time, they because it is socially acceptable, they will pull out all the stops. So when it was socially acceptable to dehumanize black people, they pulled out all of the stops. When it was socially acceptable to dehumanize women, they pulled out all the stops. When it was socially acceptable to dehumanize gay people, they pulled out all the stops. And it is arguably today socially acceptable to dehumanize trans people, so they're pulling out all of the stops. I always say, like, well, I don't always say, but I've said before, and I think I still believe it. It's, it may be kind of a hot take, but I always say if you want to imagine, like, not that things are like super great for black people right now, but we've made a lot of progress. But if you want to imagine what it was like for black people during the civil rights era, like in the 50s and 60s and before that, just kind of look at how people treat trans people today. Obviously, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but just imagine how shitty people are to trans people, how dehumanizing people are, how violent they are. And you just have to recognize that you're living in a world where people are doing that. It's easy to distance yourself from the past when you weren't around and you're like, well, yeah, we're a more civilized society now, but it's like, are we though? Oh yeah. I mean, I was just kind of joking about the forum. I think that it's often informative to expose yourself to just like different ideas, even the ideas that are like really bad, just so you understand what people are doing. Um, I mostly get my information about that secondhand because I can't expose myself to stuff like that. But I think it's if someone has to do it. I think like like ContraPoints, for example, made a video about incels, a pretty informative and interesting video. But in order to do that, that means that she had to spend a lot of time, at the very least, reading incel forums and subreddits, if not interacting with incels themselves. And that's just something that I'm personally not going to do. I just don't want to put myself through that. That's like super depressing and super maddening. I don't think I could do it. But I'm glad somebody did it because now I learned some things about it. Do I hear Bo Burnham? I don't understand that question. Do I like Bo Burnham? Do I listen to Bo Burnham? Just saw a meme. Yang is just Ron Paul for Zoomers. Is that true? I don't think that's true. But again, that's just sort of like we're talking about how the left just kind of arbitrarily, for the most part, just kind of attacks each other for no reason based on bullshit. There are legitimate criticisms of Andrew Yang, but comparing him to Ron Paul either just complete dishonesty, or it represents that you don't actually understand what Ron Paul was like or is like, and or what Andrew Yang's policies are, policy positions are. I don't think people understand how ridiculous Ron Paul was. Like, people liked Ron Paul because he seemed very genuine about his beliefs, and I fully believe that he believed everything that he said. And because he was a libertarian, he had liberal social views, and he was a non-interventionist in foreign policy. But he had all of the shitty economic views, which shitty economic views generally results in shitty social views at the end of the day. But I mean, Yang isn't a libertarian, and it's pretty clear that he's not a libertarian. I mean, I guess you can compare the phenomenon, but in that case, I feel like you'd have to add Bernie Sanders to that list. You'd have to add Trump to that list, probably. So I don't know if it's a useful comparison, to be honest. Have you talked about the N-word drama, Destiny N-word drama? I tweeted about it once, but that's about it. I don't know. I can't. To me, it's like not that noteworthy. A white gamer uses the N word in private. That's definitely not noteworthy. I mean, also water is wet. But the thing that I said on Twitter was basically Destiny talks about how he doesn't use certain words because he doesn't want to have a negative influence on his audience. Like, he understands, like, Destiny has been one of pretty outspoken on the influence that that people with platforms have on their audience. And so he has realized that what he says has an effect on his audience. So he stopped using a lot of the, bigoted and ableist and other types of words that he used to use on his stream. However, he has admitted that he still uses these words in private. And so my comment was like, well, it seems to undermine the whole thing if you're telling your audience that you use it in private, because if your whole thing is, I don't want people to think it's okay to use these things because I use them, you're still essentially giving them permission to do it because you say that you do it in private. So it seems to undermine the whole thing. That was the only take I had on that. Why do you think so few black content creators have 1,000+ patrons? Probably for the same reason that black content creators have fewer everything else. People trust white people more. I don't know. I don't know what to say. People relate to white people more. People trust white people more. People are more willing to hear things from white people. That's just the privilege of being white. It's not really that. It's not that novel a concept. It's just how everything works. So it's to be expected. I was just interested to see if that correlation also existed on Patreon, and it seems to exist. I didn't do like a full analysis. I didn't download the spreadsheets and stuff, but it seems to exist, and I would expect it to exist. But there are a few successful black creators on Patreon. But yeah, like in general, people have a limited amount of money to share, and they're gonna pick the people that they feel the most connection to, and just in general, that's going to be white people most of the time. And not only just because there are more white people in general, but just because more white people are more likely to be that person. But it's also a circular thing, because there are probably just more white people that have the opportunity to be content creators in the first place. So, I feel very grateful that I've come as far as I've come, even though I'm not like a top Patreon person or anything like that. But, I've gotten a tremendous amount of support on Patreon, and I'm very thankful for that. Recently found your channel Love your videos. Cheers from Sweden. Thank you very much. Sredna. I don't know how to say that. But I mean, earlier the thing I was talking about with Yang and Ron Paul is a lot of people talk about Andrew Yang as if he is like some secret libertarian huckster, which just is not really consistent with anything that he says, really. So that's how I interpreted that meme. But I mean, if I think there are legitimate criticisms of the way that Yang is presenting his platform. So you can do that. But a lot of people are like, oh, he's just a corporatist libertarian pretending to be a progressive, which to me seems a bit unfair. Shit. Drop something. It's my cloth. All right. Am I gonna get the new Pokemon games? Unlikely. I'm not a big Pokemon person. I haven't played any Pokemon game. It's not something I've ever been super interested in. I mean, Yang is libertarian adjacent insofar as most Democrats are. I think most Democrats are not social democrats. Like most Democrat politicians and probably people, to be honest. But I've talked about a lot how labels are uninteresting to me in general in the first place. Um, I'm much more interested in just sort of like criticisms of specific policies and specific statements than trying to like figure out what category people belong in. Like that's not that interesting to me. I'm not sure what Democrats. Probably a lot of Democrats support a wealth tax or some sort of, basically some sort of higher taxes for the wealthy. I think most Democrats don't support Medicare for all, though. There's like three of them that really do, that are actually running for president. And as for the ones that are like in the Congress, I'm guessing most of them don't. But you also have to get into the nitty gritty of why people support the things that they support. Because I also don't think that any Democrat would say that the reason that they don't support Medicare for all is because they don't think healthcare is a right that everyone should have access to. I don't think any Democrat would say that. A lot of Republicans would say that, but I don't think any Democrat would say that. So then you have to dig deeper into what would they do in order to ensure that people have access to healthcare. So that's why I think it's much more interesting to dig deep into criticisms and analysis of people's positions rather than speak broadly about what categories they are and are not in. Is anybody doing anything for Halloween? Halloween. Halloween is on Thursday, so some people around here have basically been partying since the weekend and will probably continue to party until Thursday. I went to a Halloween party Saturday night. And that's kind of usually, the people that have to work during the week and can't go out and stuff. That's what people kind of do is they go to the weekend before. Yeah, I went to a party last weekend. It seems wrong to do it after Halloween, even though it's closer to Halloween. So I feel like a lot of people did it the week. I'm sure people are still going to be partying the weekend after Halloween, but, But in my position, I'm a self-employed person, so I don't have to if I choose to go out, I can do it. I don't have to be up at a certain time, so I can go out on Halloween if I want to, which is a Thursday night, which is inconvenient for a lot of adults who have real jobs. Way too many white girls on my feed dressing up as Lizzo. How do you dress up as Lizzo? Does she have like a iconic costume or something? I remember when Nicki Minaj came out, there were a lot of white girls that were dressing like her, but with her, you could at least wear a colorful wig and pad your butt because she was known for having a big butt. But I don't know what you do with Lizzo. And hopefully we can avoid the blackface, but we never do. Someone's gonna do it. Happens every year. Yeah, I guess the flute. Well, we are we're reaching the 2 hour mark for the stream. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in about 5-10 minutes. If there are any final comments or questions, we can get those in. But just wanted to say thanks again for showing up to my stream. As always, I want to stream. I'm trying to stream every week. Sometimes I'm good with it, sometimes I'm not. But look for me next Monday around the same time. At least one white major figure will ruin their career over a Halloween costume decision per year. Yeah. It's wild. People just forget every year, hey, don't do blackface. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people who just don't give a fuck and they're just going to do it anyway. And they just forget that social media is a thing and someone will take a picture of you and put it on the internet. Especially if you're a public figure. Yeah, you're going to get roasted 100%. Even if you're like a minor public figure, if you're a person who anyone knows, you're going to get caught. They're going to put you on TMZ. You could be like the third lead on a ABC family sitcom. They're gonna roast you. You're gonna get exposed. Anyway, I just put out a new video. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's called Black Nerds. It came out on Friday. Friday. So go check that out, please, and share it and like it and all that stuff. Oh yeah, there are definitely blackface parties. I mean, there's the ones that have been caught, you know, exist. So I can't imagine how many have not been caught. Like they do, there's like college sororities and stuff and things like that where they do like, I don't know what they call it, but they just do something like a race bending day, or like a parody of Black History Month where everyone dresses up like black people. It's weird. Anyway. Check out my merch. I have merch. theonejanitor.com/store. Right now, I just have a couple t-shirts and a little chibi sticker. It's dope. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like to hear me a lot. Twitter.com/theonejanitor. If you would like to speak to me, ask me a question, have a conversation with me, the best way to do that is to email me. hello@theonejanitor.com is the way you do that. And like I was talking about Patreon before, like I said, I've gotten a lot of support on Patreon, and if you'd like to be part of that support, consider supporting me on Patreon, patreon.com/theonejanitor. I have a Discord community. If you want to come hang out with the T1J community, it's pretty super chill. I enjoy it a lot. We just kind of chill and have conversations about random different things. If you just go to theonejanitor.com/Discord, you'll get the invite. Also, if you want to watch a replay of this stream or any of the past streams, go to the link in the description of this video, and you'll see a link to an unlisted playlist. It's unlisted, so you cannot access it unless you have the link. And this video will be added to that playlist shortly. And I think that's about it. So thanks once again for coming to my stream, and I will probably stream next Monday, probably around this time. I hope you guys enjoy your Halloween, whether or not you're celebrating or not. I hope you have a good one. And if you do anything cool, maybe we can talk about it next week. Anyway, I guess that's it. Bye.